Alright, so this one's a sad one to be fair. So meet Peter Young, aka a woman beater who attacked his girlfriend so much that she had no way out. So people want to label this prick as a thug just because he beat his girlfriend viciously. I mean to the point that he mercilessly throttled her and kicked her as if she was some sort of punching bag he could use at his own disposal. This was not the first time he battered her either. This was just the final straw. Alexander Reed could not handle it no more, and I guess the only option for her was to end her own life. So suicide is a somber thing. People tend to associate it with being selfish because of the people who are left behind and how they will suffer and the questions and what ifs. But on the flip side to that is, how strong do you have to be to actually think to yourself you're going to end it all and actually go through with the act? That's some crazy strength. I think the situation is more complex than people think. Courts heard this woman beater, Peter Young, attacked nurse Alexandra Reed on numerous occasions, but because he was a snake, he was always devious. To repel the questions and stares, Peter would always play the role of doting boyfriend whenever people questioned Alexandra's injuries. Peter Young was so brazen that he often shifted the blame to Alexandra herself, saying she must have done it, or she must have given herself the injuries, which included busted lip and split lips also. A mere few days after the last attack in February, Alexandra took her own life because she feared no one would believe her, and I wonder where she got the idea from. Alexandra Reed was found dead in her home in Anfield, Liverpool on February 24th. Woman beater Peter Young was the poster boy for a narcissist and manipulator. He was the person who poisoned Alexandra's mind. He ostracised her, made her feel like she was all alone, and told her that nobody would care if she was alive or dead. We all know the MO of these kind of scumbags. They feel like they deserve more than they have without contributing anything of substance. Peter Young was a classic case. He was a takeaway worker who lost his job. He was also a gambling addict, and one of the reasons why the couple often got into tiffs was before, when Alexandra and Peter moved in together, he often stole her money. In a recorded police statement, Alexandra accused Peter of taking her money to spend on casinos, after again losing his job at the takeaway, which he denied. As if the beatings and being robbed was not enough, there was also a 4-month period where Miss Reed was forced to be the sole breadwinner. She had to be the person that propped up the 2-person household, pay all the rent, which led to more arguments again. Whenever the arguments led to Alexandra Reed needing time alone or Peter out of the house, it always resulted in violence, or in other words, an assault, which Alexandra Reed was always the victim. On one occasion, Alexandra said in a statement before her passing, "He threw me across the wall in our home, he then hit me against the wall, and then he pushed me down the stairs. He then started throwing items at me and booted me into the dining room table." It was recorded Alexandra then ran back upstairs and barricaded herself in the bedroom, resting her back against the door. But Peter Young kicked the door down, and then he grabbed her by her hair and dragged Alexandra out of the bedroom. Alexandra also said, "He called me a slag and said, 'Watch what happens to you. I hate you.' In order to isolate her, he often smashed her phone so she could not speak to anyone. On this occasion, he did the same thing. When showed the copious amounts of photographic evidence, Peter was always ready with an excuse. On one occasion, he admitted that a bruise on her arm could have been potentially done by him, but that was only as a means of trying to remove her from blocking his path as he had to go to work. Alexandra's friend also gave evidence during the case. Miss Kelly explained that she saw her friend after the attack and had clear views of all the bruises Alexandra had sustained. Miss Kelly explained Alexandra had bruises on her palm, her arm, her ankle, her neck, and her chest. Again, human punch bag. After the beatdown, Alexandra and Peter broke up. He relocated to Sheffield, but obviously, because he's a destructive individual that hates anyone prospering or anyone being happy, he came back to assault Alexandra for a second time. After assaulting her, the courts heard how Peter Young brazenly phoned the police and said that Alexandra was going to make up that he had hit her, and he wanted to call them first in order to get his version of events crossed. In a haunting 999 call played to the courts, Young could be heard shouting at Miss Reed saying, "I haven't hit you," before she managed to ring the emergency services sometime later to ask if they were on their way. Young said he didn't know how Miss Reed's lip burst and said she had plotted to falsely report him to the police for domestic abuse, like she had with previous partners. Judge Shaw said Young's version of the assaults were not plausible, and he found him guilty of both counts. Sadly, an inquest in August heard that Alexandra Reed took her own life, 7 days after making a statement to police. Do you know what though? It's a real shame that Young cannot be convicted of murder. Young was only convicted of 2 charges of assault and 1 of criminal damage, and that's the justice for you. My condolences to Alexandra's family. Safe.